Hey, Bobby Motor.
Hey, my name is Riley.
Hey everybody, this is Michael and you're listening to Speculo Live. Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome back to the Speculo Live podcast. I hope everyone's had a great week. I know we've been traveling with all kinds of events and conferences and all the things. And right now, obviously, the last little while, we've had all kinds of excitement in the real estate industry with companies coming together and other companies leaving and new technology, lawsuits, and all the fun stuff. And never been a better time to have someone like our guest, Bob Martin, on this call. Super excited to have him. If you're not familiar with Bob, I'll give him a chance to speak. But first time I met him was at the Keller Williams Mega Agent Camp. And a great guy that just came over and had some curious questions about, our AI platform. And then we got to know him and his wife. And once we got into it, really started to discover how much of an innovator Bob really is, and thought he was a super important person to bring on. And just learned already in a short amount of time some really interesting things around compliance and how he views technology and what they're doing as a team. And so we'll dive into that. But Bob, thank you so much for coming on, man. We're super grateful to have you. And I would love to start off by just saying, tell us who you are. Tell us what we don't know about Bob Martin and who you are.
Well, I guess one of the things I wanted to start about is how I actually heard about y'all. We were sitting in the Gary Keller Mastermind of the top teams, and we were listening to the gentleman who manages his money. And I was fortunate enough to sit right next to Wes. Wes is from Oklahoma. He's got a big team as well. And he said he had gone through one of the biggest transformations in his business in the last couple months. Of course, right, we're always curious, like what's working, what's not working. And so he says, they run a big ISA team, or they did, and they had 19 ISAs. And obviously, it gets into the process. Whenever you are running an organization of a lot of people, you've got a big distribution, right? Some people are phenomenal, some people are mediocre, and some people you're like, why in the world did I hire this person? And so his comment was, he said, we just moved our ISA team from 19 down to 1. And I said, like, what did you do? And he's like, we kept the best person. And I said, well, what did you do? And he said, is we found technology that was able to be better than our median ISA. And so we could keep the best. And I guess when I think about that, and obviously that was incredibly interesting, it is the belief that we have on where technology, specifically AI, is going, right? Innovation is not new, right? The Luddites back hundreds of years ago were like, oh, the Gen Mill, it's going to take our jobs. And then, right, the internet, oh, it's going to take our jobs. And when you look at the progress of civilization and you go from the agricultural economy to the industrialized economy, okay, big changes, 100 years. When you look back 50, 75 years ago, big manufacturing economy. Right now, manufacturing economy, right, 6, 7, 8%. And so, right, 50, 75 years of changes. What we think is unique about AI is not the fact that it is going to be disruptive to people, but we think the big thing is the rate of change on how fast it is being disrupted in the industry. And again, 2 years ago, I didn't have a tech tool that allowed us to make calls that were as good as our median ISA. 6 months ago, didn't really exist. 3 months ago, it exists. 3 months from now, we think that we're going to have most tech tools that are better than 60, 75% of people doing a job. And when we think about that world that we're moving into, what we believe is the way that we win is we have to take the most talented individuals and be able to pay them obscene amount of money. And the only way you can do that, if right, winning in a world where there is a bigger gap between the successful and the not successful, is through automation of technology, again, AI technology, because we think that that's what gives leverage to have the best people make the most amount of money, allowing them, again, us to be able to pay for them.
Yeah.
That's kind of our view and our vision of kind of how the technology is changing the world and changing it so rapidly.
Wow, I love that. Tell me how you got into real estate. So you've done this obviously for quite a while. Your group, Houston Properties, is obviously one of the top in the entire city. What got you into this incredible world that we're living in?
Houston Properties team, we cover all parts of Houston. We have geographical specialists. We're a little shy of $200 million a year. We're about 17 agents. And again, we got into this business by accident. I had started a tech company a long time ago, and my wife is like, well, if this thing doesn't really work out for you, I probably need something to be able to pay our rent. And so she's like, well, and my dad, he was a high school football coach. He's thinking about getting a real estate license. So why don't I do something that's a daddy daughter event where I can go get my real estate license and, maybe I'll sell a house a year or so and, I'll just be able to pay our rent. That was 23 years ago. And in Houston, when kind of we started off, and then my background had been in tech. We started getting a website. So we bought HoustonProperties.com back in 2002. We were early in SEO, early in being able to develop that out. Became a phenomenal lead source for us. My wife did really well in real estate, ultimately became one of the top 10 agents in the world at KW for 5 consecutive years as an individual agent. We realized that we had too many leads for her just to do it all. And again, if for those of you that work with your wife, you know that sometimes being in a customer service business that's 24/7 can be slightly demanding. And so we built out an organization, brought some agents in, realized we needed to build a back-end team, built a back-end team, built a tech stack, built follow-up, built events, built a whole bunch of other activities, because we found that the main thing that is valuable is putting a high-quality human being in front of another high-quality human being to build trust. And agents are good at that, and they want to do that. And everything else, right? Paperwork, activities, consistency of calls, right? Our activity was how do we take that away? How do we do a better job removing that from their life so they are able to do more meetings? Interesting side note on this. One of the data that we looked at recently is we surveyed our agents, and we surveyed the economics, and we said, is our agents that are in appointments, buyer appointments, seller appointments with $1 million clients, right? A lot of our clients, they are averaging about $1,000 an hour in net earnings to them. So, right, it's as well as any high paid professional attorney or investment banker.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
When you look at, again, Houston median prices, around $500,000. So again, about $1,000 an hour, right? Typically your consult, buyer consult, seller consult with prep and everything, call it about 2 hours. So, right, those are great rates.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they're doing showings that are after the third showing, falls to about $50 an hour. When they're doing things like sign installs or others, about $25 an hour. When they're doing marketing or paperwork, it's about $5 to $8 an hour. And so our model has always been is how do we automate or eliminate or outsource or provide the services for the things that are those quote unquote lower dollars per hour to be able to allow our agents to meet with people more often to get to those high hourly rates. And so that's been our model for the about 15 years that we've had the organization and grown from.
I love that. That honestly, that it's first of all, I love that you get to the place of like understanding dollar per hour, because I think that that's something that a lot of like agents or professionals don't really take into consideration when they dedicate their time to a specific task or what have you, right? It's like where is your time best spent? And we you see it a lot, and Jay Papasan's great about talking about these things of just like focusing on your one thing or focusing on your 20%, right? And I think once people get clarity around, well, here's why you need to be in this space, because you're over here and it's making you no money, but over here you're making this much money. So if you just focus your attention here, it moves your business forward, right? And I love that you guys bring that clarity, because not a lot of leaders do. A lot of leaders kind of stand on the soapbox and say, sell more houses, like we're trying, like we're trying to sell cigarettes. I don't know, something, you know what I mean? Like the old days of just throwing things in the crowd and like we're picketing.
But no, and I'd say this is also one of the big things that we've seen over the last couple decades. And again, we've built our own tech stack, and so we've got phenomenal developer who I've worked with for over 15 years now, and he has built our system. But the value you have now is that organizations that are again of our size, you can build really great custom tools where like 20, 25 years ago you couldn't do that. And then that gives you the insights into your business to know what are the metrics that are driving it. Again, one of the platform that we use to run our business is the traction model, the EOS. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
EOS and traction?
Yeah, EOS. Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite, probably top 3 favorite books ever. But the nice part about that is it makes it really clear that you have a dashboard and a scorecard. And every day we have somebody who has a different number. We've got about 30 different numbers on our scorecard. And so everybody is accountable for something. So when they show up for their department meeting, they are accountable for how they have moved their number. And so what's again interesting on that is we think about our success team, and right, a lot of people have VAs. The question is how do you help your VAs be as successful as possible, driving value for your client? They can't go impact closings, right? They can't say, oh, this file closed, this file didn't. They can't impact, oh, you know what? I made the agent make the calls, because that's impossible. But again, those are the things that drive the business. So that's what we tie bonuses to. What we found over time, and again, it took us a lot of trial and error, and it took us a lot of time, is that we have to be able to give somebody a number that is then within their control. So again, one example on this within our success team is we have for every one of our files, buyer or seller, about 152 steps in a checklist. So right, buyer comes in, you've got all these things, help secure compliant activity, and that checklist is fantastic because you have all these edge cases that can get buyers into trouble. But if you've got a robust checklist, is you're going to keep more people out of trouble. And so within that, at any given time, we have about 40, 50 files, about 90 clients, about 40 to 50 listings. So on any given day, we have about 7,500 tasks that need to be done from our success team. And so one of the metrics that we have is the amount of tasks that then are overdue, right? Something was due here, but it wasn't completed that day.
Yeah.
And so we have one person on the team who is accountable for that number, right? Make sure that that number is zero. What we found is that when we weren't tracking it, because we looked at the data before we had it, the numbers were often in the hundreds. And then we gave it to one person, and that person didn't really move the number more than 100. So we realized we had the wrong person. We got it to the right person. The right person has driven the number from 100 to 80 to consistently 60 to 50 to 20, and we're about hovering around 10. It was one magic Tuesday we showed up and be like, oh, we forgot to turn the flux capacitor on. But instead, it was every week at every meeting, you're like, here's how I'm trying to work the number down. Who's got ideas, right?
Yeah.
How are we?
Yeah.
I found this work and I didn't. And it's that just consistent grind is what we have found that allows our organization to provide value and then again run it in the right direction. And I think that's what so many businesses are missing. And ultimately, what we believe AI allows organizations to do is AI is better at consistent tasks than human beings.
Yeah, and I love that you touch on something there that you said, the consistent grind. But what you described prior to that is it's a unified, consistent grind that all of you are moving this together, right? And openly creating this ecosystem where it sounds like people feel safe to say, "Hey, I'm missing something here. Can someone give me some insight from outside perspective to understand?" And then it's like, "All right, we're unified. Let's move forward." And I think you see a lot of teams that tend to just either negate the numbers, don't have the proper reporting, don't have visibility into it with dashboards and things like that, and then come into meetings and then just create this ecosystem of like, what are the numbers, why are they not where they're supposed to be, right? And when you do that, it just is this constant ebb and flow of deficiency.
And that was what we love about the Traction EOS model is they set that up in a format that's easy to play through. One of the other my top three favorite books of all time is The Great Game of Business, story of a company that was near bankrupt and then it became a better rate of return than even Warren Buffett delivered for Berkshire Hathaway. And they went through the model, and the model is effectively very simple, right? People love games. People love to play a game if they know the rules of a game.
Mm.
People love to play a game if there is a winner and an ability to win as a team. So how do you get a business to operate like a great game? Give a direction, give time periods, give rules of engagement, give everybody a position so they're not running around the field. And by doing that, you have the ability to unleash and unlock creativity. But again, we think, right, human beings struggle on daily consistency, right? Yep, I
Mm-hmm.
do it. Yep, I've got motivation. Oh, yep, it works. And then something happens, sickness, family members, issues, whatever. This is where we think the AI enabled agent or the AI enabled human being is able to be so much better than where anybody was, 33 months ago before the launch of OpenAI.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. You've given it right there. Like that first piece is just awesome. Everything you just said is so great because I think you just shared a connection between not only, how you stumbled in your business, but then, having visibility and clarity into how you operate your business. But also I love that you use that awareness to drive community. I think that's super awesome. I love the books that you mentioned. We'll touch on that later too. So, One of the things I'm curious about, so you and your wife work together. And so I want to talk about that quickly because your wife is a lovely person. Getting to talk to her, meet her, has been awesome. And just tell me, what is that dynamic like, right? Because it seems to me you guys are two different personalities, right? Your numbers and data, and she is like regulatory and things like that. So it seems like you guys. Tell me about working with your spouse and some of the things you maybe give some advice and tips on.
I found it's the easiest thing in the world, and there's just one secret. I always get the last two words. Yes, dear. The
That's it. Just add that to your
Yeah,
repertoire and
yes,
your
dear.
day is
Yes,
solved.
yes, yes, dear.
Okay. Well, as a husband of top real estate agent, we own a team together too. I'll make sure to put that into my
Yeah.
daily checklist.
But no, in reality, like everything else, when your life and your work and your activities and your pillow talk is all around one thing,
Mhm.
you've got times that are fantastic and you've got times where it's a knockdown, drag out fight. I think the thing that has worked really well for us, and you mentioned that earlier, is we do have different divisions of labor, right? My wife is phenomenal with clients. She absolutely cares. She is present. She is able to deliver incredible value at those relationships, whether speaking on stage or in one-to-one relationships. I am more of the, call it, crazy entrepreneur that likes to build stuff, systems, processes, tools, activity guides, and that is more fun for me. What we both love is the ability to spend time with friends. And for the last, she's not currently in production, but for the last couple of years that she was, the only reason that she was in production is because we were looking to find friends to travel with.
Got it.
And so most of our friends that we travel with are all from real estate. And so
Okay.
I'd say with that unifying purpose is, right, you're not only delivering a level of service, you're not only delivering a level of hospitality, you are looking to find individuals for whom you want to spend weeks or months of your time under the same roof,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
It provides a clarifying focus on how do you have a big funnel at the front end, how do you have a funnel in the middle, and then ultimately how do you deliver the type of experience where somebody's like, yeah, I not only want to see you, but I really want to see you at different parts of the world.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, I mean, we've got a similar experience from our side where a lot of our friendships are based out of this industry as a whole, and it's been really great to be able to just have that experience. And it's led to a lot of great memories and a lot of leaning into each other as business owners and leaders to say, what are you seeing? What are you doing differently than what we're doing? And kind of flex on some of the insights and insider information from different markets, right? Some of our friends are in Arkansas, we're in Texas. Other friends are in California, Washington. So you definitely get a good, well-rounded perspective on the industry as a whole. So I think it's a great point that from a lot of the friendships that you make, it can be great. What is one piece of advice that you would really give to anybody from all the things you've learned right now about establishing a real estate brand and growing that brand now to a place where you are one of the top teams in the city? What's one thing that you can say? Because right now there's a lot of teams that are in this flux, right? And I have the pleasure of going to different brands. We were just at EXP, we were at LPT before that. We're going to be at Real at the end of this month. Obviously, we're at Keller Williams as well. And just from all of those conversations, we got a lot of people that are like in this state of flux of like, do I grow? Do I not? Like, and I don't know. I didn't want to put it so much in your words that like you nailed it out of the park, because I don't want to, say you may not feel the same way. What do you see right now, pieces of advice that you can give to people out there that are currently going through the fight of building a team?
I would say the biggest thing, and this is I'd say probably the single best habit that we have done now. We've been together 25 years. We've been married 23. We have done every 6 months for those 23 years. And it's a series of questions. It's again about 20 questions where you go through every 6 months and you are consistently identifying or re-identifying your North Star. So again, easy examples of that would be, right, what have you liked the most in the last 6 months? What have you disliked the most in the last 6 months? Where do you want to be at 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 90 days? What are the things that bring us the most joy? What are the experiences that brought us the most pain? And again, if anybody wants it, I'll send you our list of questions and a
Yeah,
kind
that
of
would
a
be
guide on
awesome.
that. But what we have found in doing that, and again, also then rank, right, things that are important, right? Is it wealth? Is it health? Is it friendships, relationships? Right? What are the things that are most important now? Because, and we found it, right, when you're young, like, oh, I got to go make a lot of money. Okay, great. Once you have some amount of money, then the question is what do I need? And what most people do is they just change the yardstick. Oh, I've got, $1, I need 10. I have $10, I need 100. I have $100, I need 1,000. And so it is easy to fall into that trap, and we did for a while. The thing that we have found the most is that the authenticity of who we are, what we do, why we do it, who we want to be in business with, trumps any component of, I want to be again on the Real Trends list, or, oh, I want to go be in a room with Gary Keller, or, oh, I have some external need to appear a certain way to somebody I may or may not care about. We find that that trap causes long-term destruction, but instead the ability to sit down with somebody that is completely aligned on your interests and have the honest conversation where she says, Bob, you really fucked this up. It is an incredibly helpful learning tool, and that has probably been our best thing over the last 25 years.
Wow, love that. When you think about the real estate industry today, what excites you right now? What are you getting excited about?
And again, I'm going to go back kind of broad, and then I'll bring it back to real estate. And again, this is an absolutely horrible thing to say. I say this to my friends, and again, it is a very different part of the worldview that is probably more draconian than it should be, but it is still the way that we think the world works and the way that we think that the world is headed. And I'll give you the analogy is we eat out a lot, and I assume, right, you think about your last 60 days you've eaten out, you've probably been to 20, 30 different service establishments. In those 20 to 30 service establishments, right, if I asked you to recall the name or the experience of any of those waiters, right, how many could you probably come up with? One, two, three?
Yeah, sure. Two, probably.
And when we think about the world from that experiences, there are individuals and human beings where you're like, I want to spend more time with this person. We were at a restaurant last night. It's our favorite in town. It's called June. Out with some friends. I think that's really easy. You're sitting there, you're reading the menu. You're like, okay, we got three options, right? One, your pre-fee meal. Two, right, we can read the menu and we can decide. Or three, we can just hand our menus to the waiter and he decides for us. And so we all looked at it and we handed it and we're like, we've had a long day. And the food was magnificent. And so, right, those moments and those experiences are great, but they're not half the time. They're not 75% of the time, right? They are a small minority of the time. And so when we think about you're driving, right? You think about how many people do you see that are running red lights, right? How many people you seeing that are right text messaging on their phone? How many people that you have that are out there where you're like, there is no way that this person should be behind the wheel because I don't feel safe and I know that they're not present. So when we think about where the world is going to be in the next 3, 4, 5 years, you have the opportunity for technology to replace the bottom half of people who are not performing in a field. And again, I say this right now for Tesla. Tesla has a great self-driving car. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than half the drivers today? 100%. And so the question I think that you get to is what is the percent of the population that is going to recognize that they are dealing with a threat to a lot of jobs, right? In a lot of areas. For some people, it'll be great. They're like, hey, I didn't like my job. I didn't like my boss. I want to go do something I'm passionate about. Great. For people then that are not passionate about their career, for people who are not willing to invest in learning how to get great, for people who are not in an environment and an organization that allows them to consistently win, we think the world's a really hard place and going to get really hard over the next couple of years because of what technology is able to do, which is automate things. And so for us, we apply that to real estate. We've been able to cut 40% of our back-end staff because of automation on AI in the last 18 months. Now, what we do on this, and I think this is very similar to what many companies are doing, is we say three things. One, what is the part of your job that you hated the most over the last week? Two, what is the data set that you used to be able to make decisions on the answer? And three, what is a draft GPT that would allow a level of automation? What we found on that is that for about 2 out of every 3 people when we went through it, they could have their jobs automated because all they were doing is running a checklist of sorts at 70 to 80% accuracy.
Right.
And we couldn't find a new job for them in our organization. What we found, though, which was amazing, is for the third of people who we said that to, they're like, oh, I hated doing all this shit because I really want to get to win this. They then could step up and they found that it was liberating, it was freeing, and it was amazing. And as such, we've been able to take our median compensation up by 40% on our back end because we were able to make those changes. We believe not only in the real estate organization, but also kind of broadly speaking, that that is the path of the future, right? The people who understand the technology, the rate of change, the automation are able to use it to stop doing what they don't like, to make sure that they're working with colleagues that are accountable, because, right, AI can be accountable, and they're able to go do things that move the needle. And what ultimately I think A players want is they want to work with other A players to win.
Yeah, agreed.
And for so many years, right? I mean, almost all the way before, for an organization of size, you have to have critical mass.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have an organization of all A players. I tried that. I thought we could do it. Can't do it. I don't, of all the business owners
Wow,
that I
say that
know,
again. Say that again. You cannot have an organization of all A
all
players.
A players. Again, from what we've seen, and again, early on, there were a whole bunch of great books around hiring. Hiring processes are really robust, incredible funnel, a lot of people coming in. And our thought was, is no, 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 we're going to be small and mighty. We are only going to have this small organization and everybody is going to be phenomenal because that's who we want to work with. We realize the limiting factor of that is that in order to get a business to grow, you have to be able to allow pathways for people to make more money and to grow themselves. If you're going to be small and mighty, you're not a growing organization that gives pathways for people to grow and be successful. So the way you actually retain A players is you give them, again, future growth path and money. Of a small organization, again, those two things are at odds. And so what we realize, at least what we believe now, is that the path of growth in the future is going to be a team that is part AI and a team that is part human being. And that will allow us, we believe, to have the best group of the best talent possible. And those individuals are able to make the most money and deliver the most value to their clients.
Yeah. Wow. So much to touch on. Okay. We might need a second episode here, Bob. let's keep it high level. Okay. So let me ask you this. Talking about teams, talking about EOS, all the things. Maybe what you could do is share with me one of your favorite stories of a member of your team whose life was changed from being a part.
So one of the big things that my wife and I care very deeply about is how important it is to be debt free, especially as a real estate agent, because real estate agents typically, again, don't have consistent income. They make a bunch of calls, they get a bunch of closings, they stop making the calls during the times they've got closings,
Mhm.
and then they're like, okay, and they go through these cycles of I have money and I don't. The value of an organization like ours that can set appointments and bring in leads is we can provide levels of consistency. But the natural nature of a real estate agent is that they chose this profession because they don't want to go to an office 9 to 5 and they don't want to do the same things every day. And so there's this natural tendency to be inconsistent. When we have built our organization is we throw parties for people who have gotten out of debt. So one example of somebody that we've had in our organization for a long time came to us, had been in a background of doing real estate, but also had done fitness, had a reasonable amount of debt, high five figures, had gone through the process, became a great agent, not only got out of debt, but we do a lot of teaching. We bring in accountants, we bring in other good people to teach how to save, has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. And that process, what I love the most is that's not unique on our team because our approach to thinking about the real estate business, and again, I'm going to go a little more economics as a trained economist, so bear with me for a second, is that we think that the real estate business is a great ROIC business. What that stands for is return on invested capital. So the real estate business is a great way to put not a lot of money down and to make a lot of income, which is great. The bad thing about a real estate business is there is no terminal value, which means ultimately is that most agents who build a business or build a team, you're not selling it for a lot of money because, right, people don't buy real estate businesses or real estate books of businesses for a lot of money. And so what that means just in this industry is great. You make a lot of money, but you can't really cash out, right? There's
Yeah.
no pension, there's no activity. And so
Yeah.
what that means is that in those years where you are earning a lot of money, you have to save a lot of money and you've got to make that money work for you. And so we teach that. And so we again teach that with how do you make sure that your taxes are optimized to be able to follow the tax code properly and pay an amount of taxes, and also to take advantage of all of the things that the government has outlined of why and what they want from real estate investments. Phenomenal. Also, what do you do with the money? If you leave it in a bank at, the rate of inflation, you're not going to have a lot of money. So how do you invest it? What are the things that you should be doing for your kids? What are the things that you should be doing for a Roth IRA? One of the other things my wife and I are really passionate about are helping kids get Roth IRAs. This is something that most people don't know. Again, the value of compound interest. And so for a new child who gets, again, the limit for a Roth IRA right now is $7,000 a year. And I know most early stage families don't have an extra $7,000 a year, but grandparents often do. So for a new child, Roth IRA, right when they're born, $7,000 a year going from 0 to about 21. And that value compounding at the average rate of the US stock market growth since 1929 turns into just shy of $10 million. Unbelievable, unbelievable value. Most people don't do that. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know, even if they thought about it, they wouldn't know how or where to invest. We have trainings on that. And so we've got recordings on that. We've recommendations on that. And what we think about, again, is not just how do you help people from a real estate perspective by making sure that you're helping them make wise decisions when buying and selling, but then how do you translate that to a business that allows the people who work in that business to have a great future?
Wow. Oh man, we could go on forever. And it's funny. I know, like I told you, this fireside chat stuff usually works out so great. So I'm glad that you're doing this because you're shooting from the hip. So I want to sum up or kind of wrap up this whole thing. You touched on so many different things: EOS, money saving, facts, figures, data. You already mentioned one book, but what are the 3 top books that you recommend for any agent professional that's out there right now that are just looking to kind of level up their game?
So we had somebody about 6 months ago came to us and she said, "Hey, I think I may want to go to school and get an MBA." And of course, my comment going through the right, why, what happened, ultimately it was because I want to be a better version of myself in the future than where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm not overly high on the value of an MBA or not overly high on the value of what current colleges are delivering, but we started a book club in our organization. And so I'll go through the book we just finished, the book that we're on now, and the book that we're moving to, because I think that they are most applicable to our organization. And again, I think maybe they could be helpful to some other ones.
Okay.
The first one, I'm sure you get this from nearly everybody who you bring on and ask for a book recommendation, is Atomic Habits.
Yes.
Phenomenal book. And I would say I'm only on 5 newsletters, but James Clear's weekly newsletter is one I'm on. Love it. I think he describes it as the most value for the least amount of words, and that simplicity is a lot of value. So huge shout out to Atomic Habits. 2, the book that we are on now is The Science of Scaling. A lot of people probably know Ben Hardy because he wrote, right, 10X is easier than 2X, a number of other books that were helpful. Science of Scaling is really helpful for organizations who are thinking of building a team or have a team and want to see what their future is. And the book we are moving to is The Culture Code. Phenomenal book. And ultimately is about how do you get an organization to feel safe enough to tell you the truth and work through issues collectively, which is the superpower of teams.
Wow. Amazing. Bob, any parting words before I let you go back to your exceptionally busy day?
Again, I love what y'all are doing at Speculo. We think that that is a incredible amount of value to bring in because it solves one of the agent's biggest pain points, which is how do I be consistent enough on the phone while I'm dealing with everything else associated with a closing? And that opportunity, we think, again, is good today and will be amazing tomorrow.
Yeah. Love it. Bob Martin, thank you so much. Houston Properties, check them out online. And if you are looking for a team in the Houston area, please do check them out and utilize them. They have an incredible team. Thank you so much, my friend. I'm grateful. And for everybody out there, follow us on social media, Speculo AI. And we will look forward to seeing you guys on our next episode. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on the Speculo Live podcast. We are very grateful for your support as always. If you or someone that you know is interested to just get a consultation on how they're using AI in their real estate business, do not hesitate to hit us up through one of the links in our profile, or you can feel free to DM us on any one of the social channels. Stay tuned for more episodes and make sure to like and subscribe to make sure that you get notified when our next podcast episode comes up. Thanks, guys.